Nikhil, bhaiya, if we have the permission, sir, we can start the meeting.
Yes,
If we
sure.
will have,
Sure.
yeah,
Go ahead.
okay, okay. Today, this is the first. I think so. It's on the capital markets. It's really very rare to have meetings, particularly on this subject that is called derivatives. And the topic that we have chosen for today is derivatives made easy. I suppose definitely the derivatives are not easy to understand. That's why how we can make them easy to understand, and as a chartered accountant, how relevant this subject is to us. Uh, for this, one thing is quite sure that whether it's any stream, any field that we talk about, as far as the chartered accountants are concerned, I'm quite sure that as the professionals, that the subject that we go through, the training that we are part of, it does not matter which subject we talk about, but we definitely can excel in any field. And we have a example in front of us, Mr. Rodh Mutri ji, who is the speaker of our technical session today. He's in addition to being called as a speaker, he's also an author, a trader, and a trainer. He's the author of Amazon, the most popular book on capital markets called Mind, Market, and Money. He's the founder, director, and research head of Vanchana Investments Private Limited, a leading stockbroking company from Bangalore. He's a qualified chartered accountant and a qualified technical analyst who holds a CFT Level 1 degree from IFTA USA. He holds 5 master degrees, namely MCOM, MFM, MPhil, PGD, BA, and PGD MM. His quotes on market are regularly referred by Wall Street, Bank, Bloomberg, Reuters, Money Control, Economic Times, and many more. He often comes on CNBC TV 18, ET Now TV, 9, Republic TV, and many more. And he has also been honored with Nanda Prabhu Kempa Gowda Award and Odaya Bhanu Vidya Ratna Award for his contribution in the field of finance education. It's really remarkable, sir, to have you on this in this meeting, and we heartily welcome you in this virtual meeting of by Kanpur Chartered Accountants Study Circle.
Thank you,
And
Amit
to
ji.
chair this, thank you, sir. And so to chair this session, I couldn't have thought of any other person in Kanpur other than Nikhil Tandon, sir. Nikhil Bhaiya, he's one of the pillars, one of the mentors in Kanpur, and the as far as the capital markets, finance are concerned, he's having an expertise in this, and I welcome you, Bhaiya, and I'm really personally obliged for you to accept my request for chairing this today's session. Thank you, Bhaiya. Now to proceed further, I would request Nikhil Bhaiya for his opening remarks, and thereafter we would welcome our speaker for his presentation. Nikhil Bhaiya, now you can please unmute yourself.
Good evening, fellow members. At the outset, I would like to thank KCS President Sri Amit Pandey for having given me this opportunity to chair this session and for the kind words that he just spoke about me. I don't know whether I deserve them or not, but thanks anyway, Amit. Uh, this this session today is going to be addressed by the illustrious speaker, CA Rudramurthy Dive, who is better known for his Amazon bestseller book, Mind, Markets, and Money, and is regular speaker on the CNBC TV 18. He's today going to delve on the topic of derivatives. Derivative is basically a financial instrument, the value of which is derived from the underlying asset, which could be stocks, which could be commodities, or interest, or anything. So the derivatives basically do not have any of their own value. The value they derive is from the underlying asset. Derivative trading in current market situation has taken an important position, as we could optimize our profits by making the same amount through important, as we could optimize our profits by investing the same amount through derivative rather than buying the stocks directly. I'm sure all these aspects shall be dealt in detail by our speaker today. As such, without wasting any further time, I would like to invite CA Rudramurthy to make this presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Rod sir, as requested by our speaker, sir, I would request all the participants to kindly have their mics mute, as I would be putting on the security feature so that the mics are on a mute mode. You can definitely, all the participants can use the chat box to put on their questions. Am I right, speaker, sir?
Yes, you can do that. Thank you, Amit ji. Thank you, Nikhil, and all people who are there here. Thank you, Nikhil ji, Amit ji, once again, and for the entire team of Kanpur, ICAI, and also all people who are here. And if yes, ready to go, I can start my presentation.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just sharing my screen to start the presentation, and hope my screen is visible. Okay. Let me welcome you all on this session on Derivative Made Easy. And I've just given a tagline, Bright Future with Unlimited Options, because derivative market is all about futures and options. And we will just understand this much better. And along with you guys, let me also learn this topic or this subject, derivatives. Now, very fast, I just want to know, how many of you here have a question like, should I trade or invest in equities? We don't use the word invest at all in F&O, because as Nikhil ji was talking about, no delivery as such of underlying assets specifically here. So how many of you here have a question, should I trade in equities or should I trade in futures and options for higher profit? Which is better? Indirectly, let us try to understand what is the difference between an equity market and the derivative market. Here the derivative market is what is represented by F&O or futures and option market. We will also see what is the right time to buy, and is this the right time to buy, and what shares and what sectors, what is that we foresee for the coming days, and what is the current situation of Indian capital market. And if someone wants to invest in equities, is this the right time? And is this the right opportunity you have to invest when markets are at all-time highs? If I have to buy, what to buy, and which sector, which stocks can do good? So these are all broad themes on which I will keep my presentation for the day. And I want each one of you to be very participative in this session, because I don't believe in just a monologue where I keep talking and you keep listening to it. So I would kindly request each one of you to participate through chat. And I want each one of you to please keep yourself muted. And at the end, I will try to at least reserve 15 minutes of time minimum. And I will make my presentation complete at least within 15 minutes than the scheduled time, so that we can have that fruitfully for question and answer. Because the whole purpose of this presentation is also to reach your specific requirement. So if things are fine and you are ready to go, I would like everyone on the chat box, use the feature on the chat box and say ready. So if you can just type in ready for me in the chat box if you are ready to go. Okay, so people who are there, yes, I already got the first answer from Amit saying ready. I have Anuj saying ready, Deepak saying ready, and a lot more people telling me ready and confirming me. Thank you for the confirmation. And we are here moving into this wonderful world of derivatives. Very briefly, I just want to give my story just in a minute. My story was simple. Early days, very young days in my life, I used to see this picture and see there, I have Warren Buffett, I have Bill Gates, I have Jeff Bezos, all the richest man in the world. And I was just seeing, when will my photo come here? So that was the very early dream what I had. And then I did CA only because my mom wanted me to do CA, and people around me told, you will become very rich and you can make too much money if you become a chartered accountant. So I qualified, I did my CA, but later realized, just because you're a CA, you can't make too much money. You have to come to this field called as stock market. So then I realized, okay, CA is fun, fine. I did it. Now let me go to the next opportunity where I can make the biggest money in this world. And it was in 2003, 2004, I came to stock market. And I started with a very, very minimum investment. And this was my small savings, what I had. Neither my father nor mother gave me any money to put in stock market. None in my family are into stock market. Not even my closest relatives are in stock market. So just with a small saving of 10,000 rupee in the year 2003, I came to stock market. I did really great till 2008 Lehman Brothers crisis. And my goal was very simple. I wanted to make 1 crore. So that 1 crore was a big number to me, 1 followed by 70. And till 2008, everything went well. But then once I saw the digit of 1 followed by 7 zeros and this 2008 came, I was so happy. I thought I know everything in market, but that was just the initial luck what I had. And I can never forget the story of S. Kumar. S. Kumar was a stock at that point of time, which was at 142. And when this 2008 crash happened, I still remember the stock from 142, which was in F&O, came to 12 rupees. I lost everything, whatever I had made from 10,000 to 1 crore, which took for me close to 5+ years, but I lost everything just in few days. And then not only my capital plus whatever I had earned, I came to negative because of this derivative. And I came to debt in the year 2008. Finally, I thought my career is anyhow over and I cannot make money in stock market. And this was the state of Rudramurthy in 2008, having seen such a wonderful time from 2003 to 2008. But that initial luck ended in the year 2008. But I was not ready to give up. I was ready to do anything and everything to just learn this. And I was always saying, if I cannot make money in market, no one can make money in market. And I was not ready to give up. Then started investing on myself, started learning, started attending many international, national level programs on trading, investing, met the best of the best and learned a lot. Today I say, yes, I have just a passive income of 8,50,000 per month on rent. I'm one of the NSE direct members of Vachana Investment Private Limited. Happy family, great education to children. Foreign tour, financial freedom I achieved at the age of 33. Today I work only if I want. And all this happened because I started learning, and this beautiful field of derivatives is something which I will unveil to you. Yes, Rakesh Junjunwala, another very proud chartered accountant on your screen on the left hand side, whom we call as Warren Buffett of India, had the privilege to meet one-on-one and learnt a lot from this gentleman, and also his guru Radhakishan Damani, the head of DMart. And these two people are pillars. And we also have Nimesh Shah from Inam Security. So we all know only Harshad Mehta, but then yes, these three gems of Indian stock market, I had that opportunity, and the learnings what I've got from them can never be got in any qualification, any book and any scenario. And above all these people, market has been my biggest guru, and the teachings what I've got through my 17 years of experience now and still continuing in market is what makes me something small and bit learned in this particular field. Still lot to learn for me, and through today's session I will also learn through you people this fantastic field of capital market, and in which particularly we are looking at derivatives. And very brief on me. Yes, I am the author of Amazon #1 seller book Mind Market Money. I was the only Indian who was there ranked as one of the top 5 world best trader trainers from Online Trading Summit 2019. Over 50,000 people virtually attended this program throughout the world. And I had people like Jack Schwager, who is one of the world's best trader. And I grew in the field of capital market by reading his books. But then I had the privilege to share the dais along with him and made the country India proud, because the only person from India of those top 5 world best top trader trainers. And then today I've just even reduced coming more in CNBC, ET Now, TV9, all these channels where I used to come more often earlier, and then life goes on. And thanks for the special invite given to me by the Kanpur group of chartered accountants there, and also special thanks to Amit ji and Nikhil Bhaiya, and also to all other people, fantastic, lovely, hearted, minded people here who are there in this session. Now, my mission is simple: to assist people to become multimillionaires in life. But I know so many of you are already there, but I'll give you some amount of progress and some amount of knowledge to think and grow together. And in this webinar, my plan is to cover future trading, option trading, as well as equity investing, and also to take question and answers to make this session very, very, very interactive, and also to get a lot of latest updates on capital market. I have some very basic rules. This is just to ensure the whole presentation goes very well. I always believe progress is the key, perfection is a myth. So let us not focus on perfection, because there is nothing called perfection. I only want to see whether are we better than where we are starting now, and are we better, and at 7 o'clock will we be better than where we started at 5:15 is the only question what I want to ask at the end. So let us look at progress and not perfection. I encourage people to make a lot of notes, because this presentation for me, I will share the PPT or the presentation here. I will share with Amit ji and the team, and I don't have any problem if this PPT is shared among all participants. But beyond that, a lot of discussion will happen. Any notes you want to make for your further references, would definitely appreciate. If you have a book and pen next to you, or if not, grab it soon, and we will have this. And I will take questions only at the end, so that the whole presentation can be completed in time. So if you get any questions during the presentation, would appreciate if you can make a note of that in your parking lot. When I say parking lot, last page of your book, make note only for your questions or doubts which might arise during the presentation. Right at the end, I will give you time for Q&A, so that all your questions are taken care. Have reasonable expectation from this session, because just next 2 hours I cannot complete the whole 17 plus years of experience of mine, and 38 years of my age cannot be just given in next 2 hours. But I'll try to give my level best and share my experience and learn from you people also on this session called Derivatives Made Easy. And finally, I believe whatever learning you do, there's a difference between knowing and doing. I always say, if you don't take any action, knowing is of no use. End of the day, result comes only when you do doing. So I want each one of you to also take action, so that we also get the desired result. So with this, let me start. What is derivative trading? And very beautifully it was explained by Nikhil ji. And I'm just giving you a very simple example. On my hand, I have a gold ring, and this gold ring what I have is worth 20,000. Example. So if this gold ring is worth 20,000, I also have with me a steel ring in my hand. This is a steel ring, and this steel ring is only 20 rupees. Gold ring is 20,000. The steel ring is 20 rupees. Both are ring. But I want to know why gold ring is 20,000 and why steel ring is 20 rupees. Both are ring. Now you have to tell me why a gold ring is worth 20,000 example, and why the steel ring is 20 rupees. Let me go to chat box and see answer from you guys. And can I just get participation from you fast and put it in the chat box according to you? Why both are ring? Why this ring is 20,000 rupee what I have on my hand, and why this ordinary ring is just 20 rupees? Can I just get an answer from you guys fast? Fantastic. Puneet says different metal. Thank you, Puneet, for the answer. Anyone else, please participate. I would love to see participation from the public, from the people who are there here. Puneet says different metal. Thank you, Puneet. Anyone else? Why there is this difference? 20,000 rupee for a gold ring, 20 rupee for a steel ring. Why? I don't want this to be a session like when I used to do CA. So teacher talks, that is more CA or any other courses, whatever programs I've done. So that kind of a teaching is not this session, because I am learning here. So good, I get another answer. Intrinsic metal value is different, says Nikhil. And I see another answer. It is because of the quality, says Vaibhav Shukla. Thank you for the answer. Now let me make it very simple to you people. That is, the gold ring, whatever I have, the value is 20,000 because the value of that gold ring depends on the value of gold, and the value of steel ring depends upon the value of steel. Because gold value is higher, gold ring value is also higher. And because steel value is lower, the steel ring value is also lower. So can I say ring doesn't have any independent value? It only has a dependent value. let me repeat, ring doesn't have any independent value. It only has a dependent value. Now, if I say financial derivatives or simply derivatives, these are instruments, these are financial instruments whose value is derived from the value of the underlying asset. So the value of gold ring is derived from the value of gold. As gold value goes up, the gold ring value also goes up, and as gold value comes down, the gold ring value also comes down. So the value of gold ring is dependent on the value of gold. Now let me take another simple example and a practical example now. If I say, for example, Reliance Futures. Now what is this Reliance Future? It is a derivative instrument whose value depends on reliance in equity market. If reliance in equity market goes up, which is the underlying asset, reliance in futures also will go up. And if reliance in equity market comes down, even reliance future will come down, because reliance future is a financial instrument whose value is derived from the underlying asset being reliance in equity market. Now, friends, let me tell you, I can give you ample examples like this. Now, let me talk index as an example. Let us say Nifty future. So, Nifty is not a stock. Reliance is a stock, whereas Nifty is an index. It's a group of stock. So 50 stocks from National Stock Exchange is what we have made it into a group, and that is called as Nifty. Now, what is Nifty futures? So Nifty futures has no independent value. It only has a dependent value. That's the reason why the name is derivative. The name only says derive. That means these instruments will derive their value from an underlying asset. So the name itself says derivative. They derive their value from an underlying asset. So when I say Nifty futures, if Nifty in spot market goes up, Nifty futures will also go up. If Nifty in spot market comes down, Nifty futures will also come down. Now what we spoke is about taking example as equity market, both stock as well as index. Now let me take example of even commodity market. Many a times people ask, what is commodity market? Nothing great. It is a part of derivative market. Now instead of Nifty or Reliance, I will say gold futures. Now what is this gold futures? When gold value goes up, the gold futures value will also go up in derivative market or in commodity market specifically. And if gold value comes down, even the gold futures value will come down. Similarly, you can have copper futures, you can have silver futures. So what is the difference here? Each one of them are different underlying assets. And as Mr. Nikhilji was telling us, it is just not commodity, it is just not equities or index. We can even have interest rate derivatives. In fact, in America, we today have weather derivatives. So I will not be surprised. A day will come in future where human beings will be underlying assets. So we will have Narayan Murthy futures. We will have Rudramurthy futures. We will have Nikhilji futures. And we will also have Vijay Mallya futures. We will also have Ramalinga Raju futures. But you should know which to buy and which to go short on. So derivative can be on any underlying asset, but here we will restrict our learning keeping in mind the underlying asset as either stocks, or we can go for index, and we can even consider commodity. And when it comes to currency, it is the same again. We will say dollar futures. And generally when we talk currency, it should always be in terms of pairs. When I say dollar future, it is always dollar versus which currency, and normally it is our local currency here. So it is Indian rupee, INR. So if dollar goes up in spot market, dollar futures will go up in currency market. So dollar futures will not have any independent value. The value of dollar futures is derived from the value of dollar in spot market. And if dollar value goes up against rupee in spot market, the dollar future value also goes up. And this is the beautiful world of derivatives in a nutshell. So with this, let me just proceed and then share my PPT. Now I'm sure you will be in a better position to get this learning. And yeah, so if you see, derivatives are financial instruments whose value is derived from the underlying asset, as I mentioned. And friends, I'll be sharing this presentation. No need to copy what is written there. And if there is something special you want to write when I'm talking, that you can definitely do. So as I told, it's a financial instrument whose value is dependent or derived from underlying asset. And example here I've given is only futures and options. And we can buy futures, we can sell futures, we can buy options, we can sell options. These are derivative products what we have, and we can have different underlying assets. As I told, it can be equity, it can be index, it can be weather derivatives, it can be commodity, it can be currency, so many. Now straight, let us go to futures trading. Now, what are future instruments? So a basic definition says a future instrument is a derivative product, and that has a right and an obligation to buy or sell an underlying asset at a specific price and a specific time. So for me, this might look complicated, but let me make it too simple for you. The greatest advantage what we have when you trade in futures market is we have something called as margin, we have something called as leverage. I will explain this to you beautifully, and futures market is very, very easy provided we know the crux of derivatives and we know logically how these instruments are traded. Now, let me just take you towards some terminologies here, and through this we can understand futures market much better. So I want you to know what is lot size, what is expiry, what is margin, what is leverage, and what is mark to market. Let me start with lot size. See, when it comes to equity market, I can even buy one Reliance share. But when it comes to derivative market, we have the concept of lot size. For example, let's say Reliance has a lot size of 500. So if you want to buy Reliance future, you cannot buy one Reliance future. You have to either buy 500 Reliance future, which I call as one lot, or in multiples of that. Similarly, for example, Nifty. So you want to buy Nifty, one lot of Nifty is, let us say, 75. So you can't buy one Nifty. You have to buy minimum 75, which is one lot, and I have to go in multiples of lot. So the next size will be 2 lot, which is 150. The next size will be 3 lot, which is 225, and so on. Who fixes the lot size? It is the exchange. And how is it fixed? Based on the pricing. So normally what happens if the underlying asset is priced, for example, Nifty is at a higher level of 13,250, and let's say Reliance as a share is around 2,000 rupees, and let's say you have ITC trading at 200 rupees. So a stock which is trading at a lesser price like 200, the lot size is bigger, and let us say you take Reliance where the stock price is around 2,000, there the lot size might be smaller. So let's not bother into the textbook stuff of how it is decided. I'll be more interested to see the practical application of the subject, but then very fast passing reference to these terminologies I'm making, and I want to teach you beyond Google with my experience what I'm sharing here. So lot size is something different compared to equity market where I can even buy one share, whereas here I have to go as per the lots whatever I'm telling you. And let me just go further and help you to understand more terminology. So we have this next one called expiry. Now all futures contract or all options contract or all derivative market products, they have an expiry date. Now when I say expiry date, it will be last Thursday of every month in our market, Indian market, and we even have weekly expiry for index. So when I say, for example, monthly expiry, and it will be last Thursday of every month. So if you want to understand this better, as simple as this, now this month, I'm talking about month December. If I see which is the last Thursday in the month of December, it is 24th of December. So expiry date for the month of December will be 24th of December. And if by chance it were to be a holiday, then the expiry will happen one day before, only provided that day there is an holiday in exchange. So this is a simple concept of lot size. And let me share my screen back to you. And all derivative products will have an expiry date. Whereas in equity market, I can hold the share forever, but that I cannot do in derivative market because you have an expiry date, and that will be last Thursday of every month. And if that were to be a holiday, expiry happens one day before. And In case of stocks, we have monthly expiry, whereas in case of index like Nifty and Bank Nifty, we even have weekly expiry, where every week you have Thursday as expiry date. So you want to take expiry for weekly contract, for monthly contract, all that you can decide based on the time frame. Now come to this area called margin. The greatest advantage what you have in derivative market, and that also acts as a drawback, is margin. Now let me talk to you about margin, because for me margin and leverage are related, so I'll be taking both together, and at the end I will talk about mark to market. But let me tell you what is margin and what is leverage. Now follow this very carefully. I'm just taking this as an example to make things very simple, and let me take Amit ji here, who will participate with me to make the learning simple. So I have here two people. One is Amit, and I have on the other side Rudramurthy. Both of us have a capital of 1 lakh. So Amit has a capital of 1 lakh, Rudramurthy also has a capital of 1 lakh. And let us assume currently Reliance is trading at 2000 rupees, both in equity as well as in futures. Now what happens is Amit will decide to buy Reliance in equity market, and with 1 lakh rupee, each share of Reliance being 2000. So can you tell me how many shares can Amit buy? 1 lakh divided by 2000. So can you just help me out? How many shares can Amit buy? I want the answer in chat box, please. And assume there is no transaction cost, brokerage, all that. So we are looking for learning. So can you tell me what will be the number of shares Amit ji can buy? Fantastic. Pooja gives the first answer, 50. Ankur Agarwal says 50, Raj Gupta says 50, and many more people answering. Thank you for the answer. So 50 quantity is what Amit ji can buy, and I'm talking about Reliance in equity market. Okay. Now, what will Rudramurthy do is, he wants to buy Reliance in futures. So I want to buy Reliance in future, and we have initial margin to be paid, and that initial margin is 20%. That means exchange is telling you just pay 20% of the value, and I will give you position not in Reliance but in Reliance futures. Let me repeat, in Reliance futures, not in Reliance. Now with the same 1 lakh, what is the quantity I can buy Reliance future? Because margin is 20%, that means I will be buying Reliance future just by paying 20% of this. So assuming Reliance future is 2000, 20% of 2000 if I do, that is 400, and I have with me 1 lakh. So 1 lakh divided by 400 is the quantity of Reliance future I can buy. So can you help me, how much Reliance futures can I buy, in the chat box? Fantastic. First answer by Ankur Agarwal, then Pooja Agarwal, then Raj Gupta, then Shalini Pandey, giving me the answer as 250. Now I know you will tell me, friends, 250 is not lot size. That's what the CA brain says, and even I am a chartered accountant. But then for understanding says, let us assume 250 lot size is available. Now the question is, here Amit bought 50 quantity of Reliance in equity market. I bought 250 quantity in futures market. Now let's assume from 2000 Reliance goes up to 2100. So Reliance went up by 100 rupees. From 2000 it went up to 2100. Tell me what is the profit Amit will make. So he's making 100 rupee profit per share of Reliance multiplied by 50 quantity. So the total profit what Amit ji will be making. First answer by Pooja Agarwal. She's writing us in chat and she says it is 5000. Very much right. So 50 multiplied by 100. So total profit what Mr. Amit will be doing here with the capital of 5,000, sorry, with the capital of 1 lakh is 5,000. So can you tell me in percentage terms, what is the return Amit has made on his capital? 5,000 return on a capital of 1 lakh rupee. Simple answer. So what is the percentage return what Mr. Amit will be doing here? Can I get an answer first? Yes, friends, I'm waiting to you on the chat box. Thank you, Ankur, 5%. Thank you, Pooja, 5% is the answer. Fantastic. Now see what is the return Rudra made. Rudra with the same capital of 1 lakh, instead of going to Reliance in equity market, he went to futures market. He has 250 quantity. And if I make 100 rupee profit on every quantity, multiply it with 250, tell me what is the profit Rudra made. Can you tell me what is the profit Rudra made? 250 multiplied by 100. So I'm making a profit of Friends waiting for your answer. Thank you, Pooja. 25,000. Thank you, Ankur. 25,000. Yes. So this is the profit I made with a capital of 1 lakh. So can you tell me what is the profit I have made? Percentage terms, 25,000 on a capital of 1 lakh. So what's the profit I am making? So can you tell me profit what I am making? Yes, fantastic. So right answer. So I'm making a profit of 25%. Am I right? Yes. So that's the answer I'm getting in the chat box. Thank you. So I am making 25% return with the same capital, whereas Amit ji did only 5% return. So now tell me who made more profit? Is it Amit or is it Rudramurthy? So Amit, Rudramurthy. Same capital, Amit made 5%, whereas Rudramurthy did 25%. Amit was in equity market, whereas Rudramurthy was in derivative market. So guys, who made more profit with the same capital? Is it Amit or Rudramurthy? Waiting for your answer, A or R. Okay, Pooja also says or first says RM, Rudramurthy. But now let me give you the beautiful side of the story. Is done. Let me give you the ugly side. Instead of Reliance going from 2,000 rupee up to 2,100, let us say it came down to 1,900. So if Reliance comes down to 1,900, see what happens. Amit ji will be losing 100 rupees on the quantity of 50. So he will lose 5,000 rupees, but Rudramurthy will lose 25,000 rupees. So Amit ji loss is minus 5% and Rudramurthy loss is minus 25%. So now tell me who is better. Is it Amit or is it Rudramurthy? Fantastic. Who is better now? Is it Amit or Rudramurthy? Amit lost 5% of his capital. Rudra lost 25% of his capital. Pooja says Amit is the answer. Thank you, Pooja, for the reply. Now, please understand here, the crux is very simple. Someone asked me, what is the difference between equity market and derivative market? I just told them, in equity market, you lose slowly. In derivative market, you lose fastly if you are ignorant of the market. But if you can learn this market, in equity market, if you make 5%, here I can make 25%. The smartness here lies not only in calling the direction right, it also lies in taking the leverage what you can tolerate. And that itself is a subject in depth. I can talk for years together. And that's the experience of 17 plus years, which teaches me today that it is not just calling the direction of market important. It is to know the position sizing. It is to know how much to bet and how much not to bet. And it is to know when to bet big and when not to bet big. And it is all to do with risk management. Now, listen to this very carefully. I have two people again. I can just keep on giving this practical examples which are not available anywhere in Google. And when I say anywhere in Google, that means it is practical learning. Let us again take example now of Amit ji on one side, and I will say Nikhil ji on the other side. Now let us say Amit ji, and I will also take, let us say, Rudramurthy. Three people, Amit, Rudramurthy and Nikhil. Amit has an accuracy of 80%. Rudramurthy has an accuracy of 90%, whereas Nikhil ji has an accuracy of 10%. That means, what do you mean by this accuracy 80%, 90%, 10%? If Amit ji takes 10 call, in that he will be correct 8 times and he will be wrong 2 times. So wrong 2 out of 10 times, right 8 out of 10 times. That is 80% accuracy. See this Rudra, 90% accuracy, right 9 out of 10 time, wrong only 1 out of 10 time. And see Nikhil ji, he is right only 1 out of 10 time and wrong 9 out of 10 times. So if I say accuracy of Amit 80, Rudramurthy 90, Nikhil 10, who has highest accuracy and who is doing good? I'm sure everyone will say Rudramurthy is doing good. But let me tell you the true answer and the life beyond this basic learning. Listen to this carefully. Rudramurthy has 90% accuracy. That means out of 10 trade, I make money 9 times. Assume every time I made 1,000 rupees. So 9 times I made 9,000 rupees. I lost only 1 time, but that 1 time I lost 1 lakh. So even if you are right 9 times, you made 1000 rupee every time, 9,000 you made total, you lost only once, but you lost 1 lakh. Even with 90% accuracy, my net figure is minus 91,000. Nikhil Ji has only 10% accuracy. That means out of 10 times, he loses 9 times. Every time when he loses 1000 rupee. So he lost 9,000 rupee, but only once when he made money, he made 1 lakh. So he is plus 91,000 in spite of having only 10% accuracy. But he is making money and Rudramurthy is not making money even with 90% accuracy. So what is the learning here? It is not accuracy which matters. It is also the bet size, position size, how much you make, how much you lose, and so many more things which is beyond a common man's reach. And this is where the big money is involved. I know Warren Buffett told derivatives are instruments of mass destruction or financial destruction, all that. Yes, that is for a common man, and he should stay away from it till he understands the subject, the depth, and knows just not the market direction, but also to know the position size, the leverage, and many more things which are there in order, which is required in order to succeed in this subject called derivatives. And friends, let me just further go on and continue our learning. So I'm sure you now understood what is margin. For example, in that case of Reliance, I paid only 20% margin and I had leverage of 5 times. How 5 times leverage? I could buy 5 times more quantity than Amit Ji, and 20% gives 5 times leverage because 100 divided by 20 is just 5, and I make 5 times more money than Amit. But still keep in mind, if it goes down, I lose 5 times more than Amit Ji. So leverage is a two-edged sword. Let me repeat, leverage is a two-edged sword. It will either maximize your profit or it will maximize your loss. In this beautiful world of finance, if someone says, I will show you a way how to maximize return and minimize risk, he's actually cheating you. Risk, return go hand in hand. You can never have a scenario where returns are maximum and risk will be very minimum. If you do that, you might get a Nobel Prize also, because till now, practically it is not possible. But then what is important is not taking risk is the biggest risk of life. Let me repeat, not taking risk is the biggest risk of life. But then you have to take only calculated risk and not foolish risk. Let me repeat, you have to take only calculated risk and not foolish risk. And you should know when to bet how much. And simple, people understand cricket very well. You should know when to plan for a sixer. When I get the fifth bowler, sixth bowler, a person who is just a batsman come bowler, who is not in form, it is easy to hit him. And let's say you got a no ball free hit, then it is easy. You cannot even get out on the next ball. That's the time when you might plan. So you should know when to take that calculated risk, and that requires lot of understanding, just not about market, but also about you and about risk in market which is involved, and when to bet what size, and all this makes the subject more and more interesting from the practical side. When I was doing my CA, we had, especially in options, how to calculate using Black-Scholes, the option premium. Yes, we have a formula and the calculation is done. And if you are right, okay, I get my a certificate or I pass or whatever. The question here is, practically when I trade derivative, my software in 1 second will tell me according to Black-Scholes what is a premium. But then how do I implement that? How do I use it? Should I buy? Should I sell? What to do? That is the big learning, and money is made not by calculating the option premium, but by using it and understanding what next is what is very, very important. Hope you people are deriving value from this session. And friends, right at the end of this session, I'll be giving you easy techniques on how to easily invest money in equity market. What is the current scenario? What are the good sector shares you can decide upon? And I'll also be taking your specific questions, what you have, and we will have the time at the very end. So just be there, and then let us continue this practical learning and what we are doing. So hope you understood about margin and leverage. As I told you, leverage is always a two-edged sword. It will maximize your profit. Like you saw, when Reliance went up from 2000 to 2100, Amit ji did only 5,000 profit, whereas I did 25,000 profit with the same capital. Whereas when Reliance came down, Amit ji lost only 5,000, whereas I lost more. I lost 25,000. So that's the reason why we say leverage is a two-edged sword. And also, one has to understand about mark to market. What happens in derivative is either on the day of expiry or before, when you exit your derivative contract, exchange will always calculate the profit or loss, and on a daily basis, the profit or loss is calculated based on square of rate, and the profit or loss is credited or debited to your margin account. So to put it simple, let's assume I have that Reliance and I made that profit of 25,000 because Reliance went up by 100 rupees. The 25,000 profit will be credited to my margin account the next day, even though I'm holding the same position without exiting. But if Reliance comes down, then again the debit margin or whatever is the loss on M to M, mark to market, that will get debited and your margin balance will come down. Exchange has to also ensure minimum margin is maintained at any given point of time, or else broker can go for loss. So there will be square off from the broker end if you don't meet the minimum margin requirement. But that's all something much deeper into the subject. But let me cover more of the practical aspects and give you more benefit out of this webinar, what we are doing. So this is about futures and the terminologies, leverage, all that. Let us just understand a strategy for this. Very simple. If you are bullish on underlying asset, buy future. If you are bearish on underlying asset, sell future. That means if I feel Reliance as an underlying asset will move up, I'll be going and buying Reliance future. If you feel Reliance will come down, you can short, you can sell futures. The greatest advantage what we have in derivative market is, I want each one of you to get this clear, even in a falling market, I can make money. How come? By going short in futures. People ask me a question, I don't even have the share. How can I go short? How can I sell? Simple. In futures market or in derivatives, we don't have the concept of you owning the share. You're not shorting Reliance. You're shorting Reliance futures. So in a falling market also you can make money. For example, gold, which touched so higher levels because of Corona, all that lockdown, everything, and it crossed even $2,000 per ounce or closer to it. And let's say someone went short there, gold came down to $1,850 per ounce. From $2,000 to $1,850 per ounce, you would have made $150 profit for every ounce by going short in gold. So can I make money even in a falling market? Yes. But when you short, and if the underlying asset goes up, then gone. There was a guy who was shorting Tesla, and Tesla is up 700% just in few months. Imagine his position. So by going short, if the underlying asset moves up, then because of leverage what you have in derivative, your losses will not just be that 700% up move in Tesla will be your loss by going short. You would have lost everything, and only initial margin and broker would have saved you, because the moment the margin goes below initial margin, your position gets squared off. So one has to understand the effect of leverage is so important, especially when it comes to derivative market. Whereas in equity market, I can hold the share forever. I don't have the expiry day concept. I don't have the concept of minimum margin. And this makes derivative market a unique product. Not only knowing the underlying asset is important, one has to know even about leverage and margin and how you position yourself, keeping in mind the risk management, your capital, your viewpoint, the time period, the pricing. All this makes lots of difference between an equity market to derivative market. So simple strategy when it comes to futures market: if you are bullish, buy the future. If you are bearish, short or sell the future. Let me just go towards equity versus future. In equity market, you own the share. So by owning Reliance in equity market, you are the part owner. You are eligible for all corporate action. Whereas in futures, you are not the part owner of that company, because you are betting only on the price movement. You don't own the company or the underlying asset. And leverage is always there in futures market, which is not there in equity market. Expiry day concept available in futures market, not there in equity market. Only when I have high conviction trade, then only I will go to futures market because it has leverage. If you are not sure about Reliance going up, don't buy Reliance future, better buy Reliance in equity market, because leverage thrills, but it kills. We have only heard speed thrills but kills. But I say, Rudramurthy says, leverage thrills, but it kills if you don't take it right. And then position sizing is also something which is important. And also in futures contract, I can go positional shorting. That means if you expect an underlying asset to come down, you can go short. For example, I expect gold to come down to, let us say, $1,750 per ounce, and currently gold is $1,850 per ounce. I will go short on gold futures, and if gold comes down, I keep making money. In equity market, I cannot go short except for intraday. I can't carry my short. You can only sell what you own in equity market, whereas in futures market, positionally, that means more than intraday time period, I can go short and wait till expiry date. Now, this is a simple example of equity versus future in Bharti Airtel I have given, and the same we saw in case of Reliance as an example. So Bharti Airtel here gave a profit of 145 points. Equity return for a capital of 3 lakh was 31%, whereas in the futures market, the same movement gave a profit of 86%. And this is only because of leverage. In fact, if it would have gone other way around, there you would have lost 36%, whereas here you would have lost 86%. Friends, these all things you can get it anywhere in Google, but I'll give you something beyond, which comes only through experience. Let me tell you this beautiful mathematics of stock market, which cannot be explained by using any knowledge on mathematics. That is, a loss of 50%. Let me repeat, a loss of 50% is not equal to a gain of 50%. I want you to get this clear. This is beyond Google. So if someone has 100 rupee capital, you bought a share at 100, now the share has come down to 50 rupees. So you have lost 50% of your capital. Now to regain back your capital of 100, you cannot do it with 50% gain. You can only do it with 100% gain. So a loss of 50% can only be made good by a gain of 100% and not by a gain of 50%. So preserving your capital is of utmost importance. And you will get shocked if I tell you this. If you lose 90% of your capital, to recover that, what you require is a gain of 1800%, which is next to impossible. So if you lose 90% of your capital, you have to gain 1800% from there to come back to break even. I'm not talking profit. Many a times people ask me this question, sir, I bought Suzlon at 200 rupees. This is the entry price. And they say now the stock is at 5 rupees. Okay. And they ask me, Rudraji, tell me, where should I keep stop loss? This is the question I get from people. Okay. I bought at 200 rupee. Now it is 5 rupees. Where to keep the stop loss? You can only keep it at 0. There is no other price. So let me tell you, buying Suzlon at 200 rupee is not a mistake. Let me repeat. Buying Suzlon at 200 rupee is not a mistake, but not selling it at, let us say, 150 rupee and booking your 50 rupee loss is a mistake. I'm repeating it once again. Buying Suzlon at 200 rupee is not a mistake, but not exiting the stock at 150 rupees and booking a 50 rupee loss was a mistake. Now let me tell you, in this only a professional trader and a person with experience can only understand. I always say people in market, you can't be right every time, but get out with losses being small and have the patience to sit tight when you make money on the upside. So this is what I mean by run your profits and cut your losses short. But if you say, I don't want at all to book loss, then you will book mother of all losses. Now, where do you book loss in Suzlon when you have lost 98% of your capital or 97% of your capital? It is now foolish to ask what to do with Suzlon at 5 rupees. We can only pray God, Om Namah Shivaya, but nothing will happen. I believe in God more than anyone, but I believe in myself more than God. Because God believes me only when I believe myself first. Telling Om Namah Shivaya, I cannot succeed in derivative market. So I have to put in the time and effort. So I want each one of you to get this clear that when you make losses, book it fast and come out. Let us accept we can't be right. Only 2%, only 2 people can be right every time in market. Except these 2 people, you can't be right every time in market. So who are those 2 people who can be right every time? One is God. And 2, the second person who can be right every time, let me just write his name to you, and only this person can be right every time. So as I told you, one is God, he can be right every time, and I am not God. And the second person who can be right every time, and I am not this person also, and that person is called liar. So except God and liar, no one else can be right every time. So I want people to understand, if you don't book losses when it is small, then you have to take mother of all losses. Rakesh Junjunwala sir, Radhakishan Damani, they have also lost enough in market, but they know when to cut their losses short and come out, and they also know how to run their profits big. If someone can get this 1 point from this webinar, I'm sure there is a lot more practical aspects what you have gotten. And also understand, a loss of 50% cannot be made good by a gain of 50%. And Warren Buffett says this beautifully. He says there are only 2 rules for investing. He says rule 1, don't lose your hard-earned money. I repeat, rule 1, don't lose your hard-earned money. And he says rule 2, don't forget rule 1. Rule 2, don't forget rule 1. So capital safety is of utmost importance. And I say, take care of your losses, because profit will take care of itself automatically. Let me repeat, take care of your losses, because profit will take care of itself automatically. So all this is just not wisdom words, and they are not motivational words. Because I say, you want motivation, go to YouTube, lot of free videos are available. You don't have to pay for motivation, because motivation can only motivate you for some time, not forever. And motivation cannot fill your pockets. It can only fill your mind, heart, body, energy for some time. And I want each one of you to be your own motivators and see the big people around you as role models. I could see so much when Amit ji was saying on Nikhil ji. So that is something. I see Rakesh Junjunwala, Radhakishan Damani, Mukesh Ambani, these people as my role models. So one has to understand, we have to put in the required time and effort, and then understand these practical things which are there. And if you can just beat the next person who doesn't know all this in derivative market, and we have humongous number of people coming into this market knowing nothing, their losses will be your gains. And I understand the law of karma, and many a times people say, when you make money, there is someone else losing. But I say, I have every right, because I have lost enough before, and let them lose today to gain the experience, and experienced people who are there now, let them make their money. So can you continue and be persistent is the big question what we have to see in this field of derivatives. So let me now go to the next wonderful area of options market, and let us just understand that and then go for questions. When it comes to option market, time is really short for me to explain. Give me 100 hours non-stop. I can talk about futures and options with my experience of 17 years now in market, but then I will just try to give you some basic understanding of option market. So an option market is similar to an insurance contract, we say, and we have 2 people here, the buyer and seller, or we say holder and writer. Let me make this entire options very simple to you with this simple example. So okay, so just let me take this wonderful area of option market and let me explain to you people. And Amit ji, is it all fine, going good? And any comments or anything, or you want break or continue, Rudra?
I think so. It's just it's all right. I think so. Members are interacting, and you can please go on.
Okay, thank you. So let me just go to this learning on options market. And let me just give you the crux of option market. Now, as I told you, an option market is very similar to that of an insurance contract. Now, insurance contract will have two parties, as you know. The two parties in an insurance contract are, I will make it easy, I will not say insured, insurer, all that. I will keep the names very simple so that it is easy to understand. We have policy holder on one side and we have the insurance company on the other side. So similar to this, we have two parties even in options market. I call the two parties as holder and I call the other person as writer. So two parties in an option contract are holder and writer. Now one has to understand here that holder, you tell me, in case of insurance market, policy holder. So does a policy holder pays premium or does he receive premium? I'm asking question, anyone can help me out? In an insurance contract, policy holder, does he pay premium or does he receive premium? Policy holder. Fantastic. Amit Pandey gives the first answer, pays premium. So similar to that, here holder always pays premium, whereas writer always receives premium. So we have to understand very clearly that in an options contract, let me repeat again, an option contract is very similar to an insurance contract. We have two people, one being the policy holder and insurance company in an insurance contract. Similar to that, we have here holder and writer. Holder always pays premium, writer always receives premium. Now, because holder pays premium, I repeat again, because holder pays premium, holder has right, whereas holder doesn't have obligation. I repeat, holder has right, but he doesn't have obligation. Whereas writer, because writer receives premium, writer has no right, he has only obligation. This is very, very important. I repeat again, holder, because he pays premium, he has right but no obligation. Writer, because he receives premium, he has no right, but he has only obligation. And let me also tell you, holder profit are unlimited. The profit what a holder makes is always unlimited, whereas his losses are limited to the extent of premium paid. He cannot lose more than the premium what he is paying. So losses of holder are limited, whereas his profits are unlimited. Whereas when it comes to a writer, his profits are limited to the extent of premium what he receives, whereas his losses are always unlimited. Let me repeat again, profit of a holder is unlimited, whereas his losses are limited, whereas writer, his profits are limited to the extent of premium what he is receiving, whereas his losses are unlimited. Now, many of you, what you will do just by seeing this, you will always say holder is always better than writer. Why people say holder is always better than writer? Because they see this, profits are unlimited, whereas losses are limited, whereas here losses are limited, profits are limited, and losses are unlimited for a writer. I don't want you to do this mistake of deciding that holder is always better than writer just because he has unlimited profit and limited losses, because the probability of holder being successful and writer being successful is not 50-50%. If the probability of holder succeeding is, let us say, 20%, and the probability of writer succeeding is 80%, now I will go even for a limited profit which is more certain than an unlimited profit which is uncertain. Let me repeat, I will still go for a limited profit which is more certain than an unlimited profit which is not certain to me. So people have to understand, don't blindly say holder is always better than writer. If that is the case, then everyone wants to become holder. Who will be the other side? Writer. And generally institutions do the writing side, and they have huge capital with them, and they try to use the benefit of that huge capital to eat this money what retail people keep giving to them in the form of ignorance, being always the holder. I'm not now telling you that it is good always to be the writer. I'm only trying to tell you it all depends on market condition, which we will learn. So we have just now basically understood there are two people in an insurance contract. Let me repeat, we have two people in an insurance contract, that being the policy holder and the insurance company. In the option contract, we have two people, that being the holder and the writer. Holder pays premium, writer receives premium. Holder has unlimited profit, limited loss. He has right but no obligation, whereas writer has unlimited losses, limited profit, and his profit is limited to the extent of premium what he receives. And writer has no right because he receives premium but doesn't pay premium. He has no right, but he only has obligation. So this is a very basic framework of options market. Now, let me just go to next level of options learning. After this, I always say, when it comes to option, people think we have only two options, that is call option, put option. But let me tell you, there are actually 4 positions available and not 2. The 4 positions are, you can buy a call or you can even sell a call. Similarly, you can buy a put or you can even sell a put. So when I say buy and sell here, I'm actually talking about holder and writer. When I say buy a call, he is holder of call. So holder is what here is called as buy, and writer is what here I call as sell. Now, I want people to get this very clear, because people get confused with the words here buy and sell. Generally, what I do is, please do not understand call means buy. Put means always when market is expected to go up, people say buy call. When market is expected to come down, people say buy put. You are correct. And our definition also says call option gives the holder the right to buy. So what is call? Right to buy. And what is put? Right to sell. But you have to understand this right is only available with the holder. And let me make it very simple for you, as simple as this. If you are bullish on the underlying asset, in futures, what you do? You buy futures. So if you are bullish on the underlying asset, buy futures. If you are bearish on the underlying asset, what we do is we sell futures. So futures is very easy. So if you are bullish, buy future. If you are bearish, sell future. If you are bullish on Reliance, go and buy Reliance future. If you are bearish on gold, go and sell or short gold future. So futures are easy. But when it comes to option, if you are bullish, buy a call. If you are bearish, buy a put. Here ends all the learning for a lot of people. But let me tell you, here we don't end. If you are bullish, we can even sell a call. And if you are bearish, so just a second. So I told buy a call or it is sell a put. Now here buy put or sell call. So most people don't know this position at all, because this is what I call as the writing side of option, which generally institutional investors, institutional trading desks, which have excess capital with them, they keep doing this. And hedging and further more advanced concepts I can talk. And we have option strategies on hedging, volatility smiles, and I can keep going. But then please understand 3 things are available if you are bullish: buy future, buy call, sell put. And similarly, if you are bearish, sell future, buy put, or you can sell call. So this is what you can do in case of derivative market when it comes to the positioning. So let me go back and then try reading through the PPT and see if I've covered all this. So as I told you, option contract similar to insurance contract. We have holder, we have writer, and we also learned that holder has right, no obligation. Writer has no right, but only obligation. Holder pays premium, writer receives premium. Holder has limited loss, unlimited profit. Writer has limited profit, unlimited loss. But just because of this, don't decide always holder is better. It all depends on premium. If I'm certain to get that premium, which is having high probability of coming to me, and I might still go for a writer place. So you cannot decide simply that I will always be holder just because it is limited loss and unlimited profit. So we have this concept of strike price, also called as exercise price, and this is the agreed price for the contract, and this is for expiration date and maturity date. We learned in futures what is expiry date or maturity date. As I told you, that's the last Thursday of every month. So all that is what we learned in futures applies even here. But let me tell you what is strike price for your understanding, and I'll come to that. And we have this call versus put. Call option gives the holder right to buy, put option gives the holder right to sell. And we have 4 people who are there in option market and not 2. So we have buyer of call, also called as holder of call. We have buyer of put, also called as holder of put. We even have writer of call, also called as seller of call. We have writer of put, also called as seller of put. Now we learned if you are bullish, what you can do is either buy in futures or buy call option or sell put option. If you are bearish, either sell in futures or buy put option, or you can sell call option. So this is what I just explained and we learned. Now trading strategy is very simple, as I just now told you. If you are bullish, either buy future or buy call or sell put. Now if you are bearish, you can either sell future, buy put or sell call. Now how do you decide which is better, option buying or option selling? The following parameters are important. Now before I go there, let me explain to you what is strike price, and this is something which is important, and let me tell you. And I have some questions here where Pranav is asking who is writer in option market, blah blah. Pranav, I think you might have joined a bit late. I would appreciate each one of you, if you have any questions, put it in your parking lot last page, and I'll give you time at the very end for Q&A, and definitely at least 15 minutes time. And this is such a deep subject, and I just don't want to touch it on a surface level. I want to give that small experience of 17 plus years what I have in derivative market day and night. Now getting back, I want to give you the understanding of strike price. Let me explain to you what is strike price. And friends, as I told you, progress is the key and not perfection. So are you better than where you started? This session at 5:15 is the question. If answer is yes, superb. I don't want someone to feel that, okay, I'm not able to get everything. When I started learning derivative, it was not the first 2 hours where I had even learned 1% of what you people know today on derivative. It has taken time for me, and sessions like this, which is conducted by Kanpur team and people like Amit ji and the entire team of Amit, and also people Nikhil ji and the entire team supporting, only through this program comes live to you people, and I'm sure it is benefiting people around and surely benefiting me, because this is a special privileged opportunity I have to share a very small knowledge what I have on this subject with you people. Now let me tell you what is strike price. Now friends, let me take Nifty as an example, and currently Nifty is at around 13,250. Now if I buy a call option, follow this carefully. If I buy a call option of, let us say, 13,300 strike price. So if I buy a call option of 13,300 strike price, it means you are saying I will buy Nifty for 13,300. Now I'll ask you a question. Why do you want to buy Nifty at 13,300 when it is available in market at 13,250 itself? But this 13,300 is not as of today's date. You want to do it before expiry date. And you know expiry date is last Thursday of the month. Now, let us say on expiry date, that is on the last Thursday of the month when Nifty expires, Nifty closed at, let us say, 13,500. And to buy this right, to buy Nifty for 13,300, let us say you paid a premium of, 75 rupees. So if you have paid a premium of 75 rupees and you have the strike price 13,300 and you have bought a call option, and if Nifty expires at 13,500, what happens is you have a right to buy for 13,300. Nifty is now on the expiry date at 13,500. So you are making 200 rupee profit. but you have paid premium of 75 rupees. So your net profit will be 125 rupees multiplied by the quantity what you have and that into the lot size. So for example, if I have one lot of Nifty, then my profit will be 125 multiplied by Nifty lot size being 75. Now one has to understand here, this 13,300 strike price is what? It is at that price you are saying I will be ready to buy Nifty if it is buying call option. And if you are buying put option, you are saying that that price of 13,300, I am ready to sell Nifty. Now, call option gives you the right to buy, put option gives you the right to sell. Now, let me make it very easy and simple to you. And I'm taking live example. Okay, I'm talking live example, and I'm just taking in front of you NSE site just to give you some understanding how practically this market works. And I'm sure you people having given this time, you will be in a position to understand live. So let me just share with you the screen, and you are able to see now my screen here, and nseindia.com is what I'm just going in front of you live. So this is the place where I can show you how derivative market trade. So I'm just going to nseindia.com, and let me just show you here live market, and I'm just going to equity derivative. Just see the screen here, Nifty, and I'm taking monthly expiry, which is 24th. Okay, 31st December you have last Thursday. I'm just sorry. So expiry, you also have 24th December as I told you, but you also have 31st December expiry. So I'll take 31st December, and see, this is your Nifty spot price currently at 13,258. And I want you to see this very carefully here. Now, look at Nifty example. I'm just telling you 14,000 Nifty. So strike price you can see on my screen. I'm talking 14,000 strike price. See this? This is 14,000 here. And look at the last traded price. Okay, so right now, let me just go here once again. This is 31st December, and this is Nifty and 13,258. Now, if I just see here, go down. Okay. Yeah, so here Nifty call option. Yes, friends, you can see on my left hand side it is calls here, and on my right hand side I have puts here. Let me go to call, and let me see, for example, 14,000. Okay, and I want you to get this clear, easy. So see this last traded price, LTP, last traded price is 22. 22 is your last traded price. Now see this very carefully, very carefully. Very simple, nothing complex. It is derivative made easy, and I'll make it easy for you. And I want you to follow this carefully. Currently, Nifty is 13,250. This is current price, approximate. The real price is 13,258 or something. Okay, let's take the same 13,258. Is that the right Nifty price? What we saw now on the screen? Let me just once again check. Nifty current price, yes, it is 13,258. So let me just go back and then share the screen with you guys. And here we go. Okay, so 13,258 is your Nifty current price, and 14,000 call option. Okay, 14,000 call option is currently trading at 22 rupees. This is call option, 14,000 strike price, currently trading at 22 rupees. Expiry date being 31st of December 2020. Now listen to this very carefully. If I feel Nifty will not go above 14,000, it will not go above 14,000 before 31st December 2020. That means just in next 25 days, I don't expect Nifty to cross, let us say, 14,000. What I can do is, I will sell call option of 14,000. I will sell call option of 14,000 and pocket this entire 22 rupees premium. And when I pocket this entire 22 rupees premium, if Nifty goes up, even if Nifty goes up and touches 13,900 on expiry date, that is 31st of December, this entire 22 rupees is my gain as a writer of call option or as a seller of call option. So what am I telling here? I'm only betting, saying that Nifty will not go above 14,000. Let me repeat. I'm saying, this is just for example, Nifty will not go above 14,000 before 31st of December 2020. For that you have 22 rupees premium. So if I pocket the 22 rupee premium, even if Nifty goes up but doesn't go above 14,000, the entire 22 rupees premium is mine. Now I am selling a call option of 14,000 strike price. And if Nifty doesn't cross 14,000 by 31st of December 2020, the entire 22 rupee premium is yours as a writer. Now, other way around, if you buy the call option, that means you want to be the holder of call option, you are very bullish on market. If Nifty closes any price below 14,000, any price below 14,000, you lose your entire money what you paid as 22 rupee premium. That's the maximum loss holder will make. The premium what he has paid 22 rupees, and the maximum gain what writer makes is the premium what he has received 22 rupees. But now see the scenario. Let us assume the Nifty what I'm talking here goes and closes at 14,100. If Nifty goes and closes at 14,100, what happens is holder is making, because he has right to buy Nifty for 14,000, that is a strike price. So he is making 100 rupee profit. He has already paid 22 rupee premium. He is making a gain of 78 rupees. Whereas writer, he received premium of 22 rupees and he lost this amount of 100 rupee movement, whatever is there. And finally what happens, he will be losing 78 rupees. So to put it simple, to put it very simple, let me tell you, if Nifty starts going up, let's say it went to 14,200, then this fellow will make 178 rupee profit net as a holder. If Nifty goes to 14,300, he will make 278 rupee profit. So his profits are unlimited, whereas his loss is limited maximum to the extent of 22. But don't say I will now take holder position. You will make money only, not even if Nifty crosses 14,000, you will make money just at 14,000, because you have already paid 22 rupee premium. Your profit starts only at 14,000 strike price plus the premium what you paid 22, and you will see money only above 14,022. So that means even at 14,010, I am saying writer will be making money and not the holder. At 14,010, writer has received already 22 rupee premium. Strike price being 14,000, you will be losing 10 rupees. Still the writer is making 12 rupees. So let me tell you, the break-even point here is 14,022. No doubt, writer has unlimited losses. But what is the chance of Nifty going above 14,022? I will not give more than, let us say, 10% chance. So one has to understand, it is just not based on holder writer. There is a lot of these basic calculations one has to do. And I'm sure with this practical example, you're able to learn something. Now, if I take higher strike price, let us say 14,100 call option of Nifty. So let me just go here practical and then show you, instead of 14,000, if I go for 14,100. So that is a bit far. So see this 14,100 call option. See the premium is only 14 rupee 85 paisa, approximately 15 rupees. So at 14,000 the premium was 22. But here the premium what I get is only 15 rupee. If you go to 14,200, you get only 9 rupee premium. If I go to 14,300, I get only 6 rupee premium. That means as you go higher on the strike price, call option premium keeps coming down, for the simple reason the chance of market moving beyond that becomes lesser and lesser. So as your risk becomes lesser, the writer gets lesser premium. So here you have to decide based on the premiums, based on what you feel market will be before expiry day. And all this is important. It is not just I am bullish by call option, I am bearish by put option. This is textbook, but we have to go beyond that to get this type of understanding. So now I'm sure with this learning, let us just go bit Furthermore, onto option market. So to decide whether buying is better, selling is better, we have cases like whether is it trending sideways, volatility, we call it as vega in option Greeks, time decay, capital size, probability of winning, risk reward. All this takes time for me to explain, but then I'm trying to give you some amount of information on practical aspects of market. When you buy option, always ensure it's a trending market. You expect volatility to go up, because it is just not the underlying price here which is important. What happens in option market is, along with underlying asset price, we even have to see the time decay, the volatility of the underlying asset, and all this which is important. And option buying is only for retail traders who have small capital, and the probability of winning is lesser, risk is higher, and also the chance of you making money becomes higher. And option selling is advisable in a sideways market where volatility is expected to come down. Time decay is what is benefiting the writer. It is normally useful for people who have big capital, and the question here is the probability of winning is very high for a writer, and the risk what he takes here is less, but he is sure of the money what he is pocketing. So open interest is another concept where I always say whenever price goes up, open interest goes up, it is bullish for underlying asset. Price goes up, open interest comes down, I won't call it as bearish, I say exit long. Price comes down, open interest goes up, it is bearish. Price comes down, open interest comes down, it is exit short. And I just want to give you these concluding remarks. People asked, everyone looks for Warren Buffett as one of the giants in this field, and he was asked this question, why people don't become rich? This was a simple question asked to Warren Buffett, and Buffett answered it so beautifully. He said, people don't become rich because no one wants to become rich slowly. Let me repeat. People don't become rich because no one wants to become rich slowly. If you can just understand the statement of Buffett, you know how to become rich. You have to give time to become rich. And I say, why people don't become rich, there is another reason. One is, as Buffett told, it is because no one wants to become rich slowly. That's the reason why people don't want to become rich. And this rule applies everywhere. Everyone wants to become Padam Kinchasar the day they qualify as chartered accountant, without knowing he has experience of that amount. And he is the one here in Bangalore, where even when I was doing my CA, I used to see him as my role model, and many more people we have. So everyone wants to become Nikhil ji the day they complete their CA, and they want to have the best client, the best amount of understanding, everything. People are not ready to spend time. Everyone wants to become Tendulkar the day they hold the bat. Everyone wants to become Mukesh Ambani the day they start the business. You have to give time for time. So people don't become rich because no one wants to become rich slowly, is what Warren Buffett says. And this is the top reason why people remain poor. And many retail traders and many common men, they don't become rich because they want to become rich fast. I say people don't become rich because no one wants to become rich by putting the work. People want to become rich doing nothing. And when you do nothing, what you get is also nothing. So if you can understand and give time, and if you can put in the required work, I'm sure you know how to become rich. And I can remember this beautiful words of Carlos Slim. He was the richest Mexican, and he was asked this question, how to become rich? And Carlos Slim answered it so beautifully. He said, how will you become rich if I work hard? Over. And I say, how will you become fit if I do yoga? If I do yoga, you cannot become fit. And just by watching me doing yoga, you cannot become fit. You have to do yoga for you to become fit. If you put in the work and you give the time, I'm sure you know the answer how to become rich. Now, let me just give you some more learning, and these are more important aspects to me in market and equity investing during these challenging times. People ask me this question always, should we invest now, stay away from equity during these challenging times? Let me answer to you. Buffett says this so beautifully. He says, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. March, when we had the corona, the lockdown and everything, and when markets were down, no one was ready to invest. Everyone wants to sell, panic more. And Buffett says this, when all others are greedy, you have to be fearful. And when all others are fearful, you have to be greedy. And this is Benjamin Graham. He is guru of Warren Buffett, and he is the first person known, and we call him even as father of value investing, because I believe trading can only give you richness, whereas investing gives you wealth. And Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, he says intelligent investor is a realistic who sells to an optimistic and buys from a pessimist. So you have to always sell to an optimist and buy from a pessimist. And I say this, buy quality over quantity at reasonable time during crisis. This is my statement. I would always love to buy quality over quantity. I don't want to buy shit because it is available in huge quantity. I would love to buy quality over quantity, but at reasonable time during crisis, because that's the time when there is opportunity. When Maggie had issue, Nestle stock tanked. And if people would have bought Nestle that time, today they would have only made over 600% return in last 2 to 3 years. So you have to buy quality over quantity at reasonable price during crisis. And I always say, what is, now people ask me this question, get rich quick adventure scheme, can you give me in equity investing? Yes, my answer is, Albert Einstein told this. He says, I don't know which are the 7 wonders of world, but I know the 8th wonder of world. And he says that is compound interest, and compounding is the 8th wonder of world. I want you to get this story very clear. This is a dash tree. Can you tell me which tree is this? Whatever you see on your picture, waiting for your answer in the chat box. Guys, can you help me? Which tree am I showing you? Fantastic. Pranav Kumar Shukla, the first answer. Manoj Avasti, the second answer. Puneet gives me the third answer. Raj Gupta, the right answer. All of them are giving me the right answer. Fourth one, Nikhil, Nishit, Deepak. Thanks a lot. All of them are saying this is a bamboo tree, correct? But let me tell you the story of a bamboo tree. Please listen to this carefully. A bamboo tree takes 5 years. And in 5 years, what you see after sowing a bamboo tree is a just small sprout outside. For 5 years, you have to wait. You can only see a small sprout coming out after 5 years. But after that, in next 5 months, it will grow 50 feet tall. People always say, in just 5 months, 50 feet tall. But they don't know, it took 5 years and it was growing deep inside, making its roots stronger. We always see only that 50 feet growth in 5 months, but you don't see the effort of 5 years growing inside, making its roots stronger. And I always say, it is tough to make your first 1 crore. And let's say to make your first 1 crore, you might take 35 years. And at 35, if you make the first 1 crore, you will not take 70 years to make your second crore. Going by mathematics, you have to tell me, if it takes 1 crore at 35 years to do the 2 crore, it should take 70 years. But reality is not that. You will do, let us say, 10 crores at the age of 37, and you might do 50 crore at the age of 45. That means you have to spend the time to grow your roots stronger. And growth always goes exponential once you touch the inflection point. And let me tell you this, Warren Buffett, and I'm showing this to you in a graph so that you understand better. If you see Warren Buffett, his life in terms of age and his wealth, if I take this on a chart, he took something like 55 years of his age to earn just 5% of his total wealth. The rest he earned from the age of 55 to 90. So 95% of his wealth he earned only after the age of 55. And only 5% of his wealth he earned before the age of 55. So growth doesn't happen this way proportionately. And it always happens this way. So this inflection point is what you have to wait for, and then the exponential growth comes. And this is what we mean by power of compounding. and it is only tough to make your first 1 crore, and it might take the time, then money starts multiplying faster. What is important is continuous learning and just not learning, and persistency is the key for success. And having that open mind to keep investing your time on your learning, the earning automatically comes. Now, I always say, people ask me this question, today markets economy is bad, but why stock prices are going up? Please understand, today's stock price is a reflection of expectation of future. Let me repeat this very clear to you all. Today's market and today's stock price is not based on today's economy and today's financials. It is based on what market participants see for the future. So one has to clearly get this. It is just the future expectation which is discounted today. I can show you many loss-making companies still trading in stock market and they have some share price. Take Bharti Airtel. Bharti Airtel stock is at around 500 rupees. Company is making losses, or this quarter they just turned into profit. Now, why is a loss-making company trading at 500 rupees? Simple. Today's 500 rupee pricing is based on future expectation. You can see a lot of e-commerce businesses burning money, but see their valuations. It is humongous. Why? Because it is just the future expectation is what we give as prices today based on the law of demand and supply, which is decided by market participants. So now I want to tell you, based on this input, the market behavior, today's market price is reflection of future expectation of market participants. Stock price behavior depends on three important factors, that is macroeconomic, industry, and company specific. And now you know why a loss-making company is also trading with positive share price. And this story summarizes everything. Intelligent person versus wealthy investor. This is Sir Isaac Newton. And why am I showing this? That is because Sir Isaac Newton is believed to be the most intelligent person ever seen in this world. Let me repeat, is the most intelligent person ever seen in the world till date. If you take history, if you take as of today, and people believe there is no one beyond Sir Isaac Newton in terms of intelligence. And what happened to this most beautiful person, or the most intelligent person ever born in the history of mankind? What happened to this intelligent person when he traded and invested in stock market? Let us see what happened. In the year 1720, Isaac Newton, he owned the shares of South Sea Company. That was the stock what he owned, and that was one of the favorite stocks in England at that time. And Sir Isaac Newton in the year 1720, 17th century, okay, he bought the shares of South Sea Company, the most intelligent person ever seen till date. He bought the shares of South Sea Company, and sensing that market was getting out of hand, he sold all his shares of South Sea Company, and he made 100% profit, pocketed 7,000 pounds just in few months. Just in few months, he made 100% profit, and he thought he knew everything on stock market. But later what happened was, just few months later, swept in the wild enthusiasm of market, he jumped back to buy and sell South Sea Company share at a higher price, and finally he ended losing 20,000 pounds. He lost more than what he made also, and for the rest of his life, he forbade anyone to talk to him the word South Sea in his presence. So if you tell South Sea in front of Isaac Newton, he will shoot you. He don't wanted anyone even to talk that name South Sea. And he lost 20,000 pounds, more money than what he had made. He lost all his capital and lifetime savings in South Sea. And this is the statement what the most intelligent person of this world told. He said, I could calculate the motions of heavenly body, but not the madness of people in stock market. I repeat, I could calculate the motions of heavenly body. He could find out the distance between Earth to Sun, and from Jupiter to Uranus, and from one heavenly body to the other. But he said, I could never find out or calculate the madness of people in stock market, and he was one among them. And after this statement of Sir Isaac Newton, Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing and guru of Warren Buffett, he was given the task of doing the analysis of why Sir Isaac Newton lost money in market, even though he was the most intelligent person. And after the analysis, this report was given by Benjamin Graham on why Isaac Newton lost money in market, even though he was the most intelligent person. And the answer from Benjamin Graham after the complete research was, by letting the crowd override his own judgment, the world's most intelligent person acted like a fool. Let me repeat. Benjamin Graham says, by letting the crowd override his own judgment, the world's most intelligent person acted like a fool. And I am giving my reason why Sir Isaac Newton, being the most intelligent person, could not make up in stock market was because Sir Isaac Newton was an intelligent person, but he was far from an intelligent investor or a trader. By letting his emotional imbalance, he had lot of IQ, but his emotional imbalance overruled his intelligence and he failed miserably in stock market. So guys, what is very, very important is to also take care of your emotional intelligence. This last story of Rick Gureen. Rick Gureen was one of the person who was along with Warren Buffett, and he was just not with Warren Buffett, he was also with Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. Even today they are together. So three people, close friend, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Rick Gureen. These three people were there, and see what happened in this story. So Rick Gureen, Buffett told this, he said, Charlie and I always knew that we would become incredibly wealthy, but we were not in a hurry to become wealthy. We knew it will happen, but Rick was just as smart as us. So he was smart, Rick was smart, but he was in a hurry. So what was the difference between Buffett, Charlie Munger and Rick Gureen? Three very close friends. All three had equal IQ, or in fact, Rick had more IQ than even Buffett and Charlie Munger, but only Buffett and Charlie Munger succeeded, but not Rick Gureen. Why? Because Charlie and I always knew, that is Buffett and Charlie, they knew they will become incredibly wealthy, but they were not in a hurry. Whereas Rick was smart, but he was in a hurry. What happened later? In the year 73-74, Rick was highly leveraged. Now you understand what is leverage. He was highly leveraged with margin loan because he wanted to become rich very fast. And the stock market came down 70% in those 2 years. That is 73-74. And all his margin calls got triggered and he sold the Berkshire stock to Warren Buffett because he wanted money at that time, because he was highly leveraged. He wanted to become rich very fast. And when he sold the shares of Berkshire to Warren Buffett, Buffett said, I bought the shares from Rick at $40 a piece. And it is today $3,23,275 without counting dividend. And the return what Buffett made from 1973 to today is 8,08,187.5% return. So the story gives you just this one learning. Rick was more intelligent and shrewd than Buffett and Munger, but did not become more wealthy because he wanted to become rich quickly. So if you can just get this story, and even story of the most intelligent person who had IQ but not EQ, and who could not control his emotions, and his intelligence was overridden by his emotion, and you saw what happened was 20,000 pounds loss and loss of all his savings to the most intelligent person of this world, Isaac Newton. And Rick Gureen also lost everything, and he could not do what Buffett or Charlie Munger did for a simple reason. He wanted to become rich quickly. So if you have got this message from me, let me give you this last statement, the last slide. The illiterates of 21st century will not be the one who cannot read and write, but these are the ones who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. Thanks for the wonderful opportunity what you people have given me. On dot at 7 o'clock, I'm just stopping my presentation. It was a 2-hour presentation time given to me. Started somewhere at around 5:15, time now 7 o'clock. Told you 15 minutes of Q&A if you give me that time. and I've just taken this 1 hour 45 minutes of your precious time. And thanks for this wonderful opportunity given to me by the team here. And thanks, special thanks to the person heading this session, chairing this session, Nikhil ji. Thanks to Amit ji, and thanks to each one of these people who are there in this session, who has given me this great opportunity to share my small expertise and experience with you people on derivatives, including futures, options, and also on equity market. And let me just open the session for Q&A and the time back to Amit ji and the team. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity, especially to the entire team of Amit and the entire Kanpur team here. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity given to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now all the members, निखिल भैया आप unmute कर सकते हैं.
Well, participants, can we have if anybody has any queries, we can take those queries first, as the speaker has said.
Yeah, you can even write it on the chat box, and I have opened my chat here, and any questions, if you have, put it on the chat.
Bhaiya, I have Nikhil bhaiya, I have received a few questions on my personal message. If you permit, so I can read it for the audience.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
So, Speaker sir, we have a question from Vipul Avasthi ji. He has asked, sir, kindly advise the ideal capital to be invested in derivatives trading, including option selling, keeping in view the changed margin rules of SEBI.
Yes, so based on this changed margin rules, there are today people taking positions like iron condor, where if you buy even option and sell option, because it's a complete hedged position, margins are becoming lower in that case. But if you only go for selling options, because of the changed margin rules of SEBI and higher margin, people are unable to now sell small premiums and pocket their premium and pocket that premium. So I can only advise, it is good because to some extent retail people are getting thrown out of market. It is good for retail people, but then on the other side, option writers or institutional guys who are doing this amount of option writing, for them this leverage is getting taken out. But I can tell you what is an ideal capital with which one can start derivatives. And if you want to do it from the option selling side, I say ideally you should have something closer to 10 lakh. And if you ask me from option buying side, what is an ideal capital, I will only say start with that capital what you can afford to lose, but let that capital be big enough to teach you lessons in derivatives. Thank you.
Thank you. I think so that has quite well answered. So I have one more query. I would just yes sir. So it is, a chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant, unless permitted by the council so to engage. Since trading in derivatives, including intraday trading, falls in definition of business, kindly advise the procedure to obtain permission for the same from council. I think so, sir. You can answer this question in terms of whether the code of conduct is applicable. How to obtain the permission is, I think so, is a procedural aspect, and we already had a session on the code of conduct, sir.
No, I can give a very simple answer. I don't know if it is true, but I'm just making this comment. Rudramurthy should be the only chartered accountant in India from day one. I have not practiced as a CA, and from day one, I have not even worked in any company as a chartered accountant, nor employment, nor COP. And I am a chartered accountant earlier only on visiting card. Now no visiting card also I carry. I'm just telling you this because easiest way to do is you have to ask experts who are practicing chartered accountants or members or council and all that. And I can only tell you this, more than CA, I have money here. That's the reason I just did it. And it was not by choice, where after some time I decided I will come to stock market fully. From day one, when I qualified, from that day to today, I've never practiced nor I've gone for employment as a CA. Mother told do CA, I did it. But then someone good in a CA community can answer this question better. I'm not an expert to answer this. Thank you. Can I just get the next question?
So actually, I have the questions. And most of the questions that are there with me, that has already been answered by by you, sir. If I could just check once more.
Yes. So if Nikhil ji,
Yes, I say. I think so. We can move ahead with this.
and just for the benefit of people, by chance, if you have questions, queries, doubts, and you want me to share my email ID, I will do it for your benefit. So I'm just giving it to you on the chat, and I don't know about the professional code of conducts and other stuff. There is no advertisement or whatsoever. I don't need that. I'm just sharing this mail ID of mine for the simple reason, if you want to connect to me. So this is ca.rudramurthy@vachanainvestment.com. I'll also share my Twitter handle if you want, and that will help you out to just keep in touch, or if you want to know some updates from me. So I'm just sharing my social media link to you, and that is on chat box. So you can just I'm just sharing that on the chat, so that if they have any questions in future, or if they want that, you can follow me on Twitter. I've just given my Twitter handle. I've also just given my mail ID. You can just definitely copy that if you are keen or interested to stay touch. And I'm also just, yeah, last slide, I think I did not give you that. It is there here. Okay, so I think, yes, my website, my details are there. So I've just, okay, so after questions, it is there. Yes, Mr. Amit ji. So I think if any more questions, if they have, they can write to me by mail. This is not my phone number. I don't share my personal number. This is my office number. So mail would be the better place to contact Rudramurthy directly. For any queries, if you have, as I've shared that in the chat, you can definitely interact to me on mail if you have any questions, and I can be of any help to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nikhil Bhaiya, could you please proceed?
Well, friends, after such an enlightening session on derivatives, futures, and options, Mr. Rudramurthy made it so simple and it's explained each and every aspect in such a simple manner, which I'm sure would have given a lot of clarity to each one of us, what derivatives are, what call put options are, how to go about it. But I would just like to take out from whatever he said that the three things that we should always remember is that what he just said. One is leverage thrills but kills. So one should be very, very, very cautious while trading in futures and options. And one should always note up to what extent one can bear a loss. So that should always be there before you get into any transactions relating to futures and options. Because okay, yes, if the profits are more, so are the losses. So, but you should be able to bear your losses and not over leverage yourself in any manner. Second, of course, in any futures options trade, you should always have a stop loss. You should know where you have to cut your losses, because if you do not have your stop loss, as he rightly mentioned, gave an example of Suzlon. So you would be wiped out and you would never know what happened to you. So you don't have to be emotional while being an investor in the stock market. And as far as possible, try and be an investor and not a speculator. Because if you are an investor, you would always be making wealth. While as a speculator, you have to count on your luck. Thank you, Mr. Rudramurthy, for such an enlightening session. And it was really good to have you with us for the entire session. Thank you very much.
It's my privilege. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's really for KCS study circle. We had two from Kanpur. We have Nikhil sir, whose experience and knowledge in the financial instruments markets is unparalleled. And Rudramurthy ji, the way he had handled it, I think so. The more important, today the session on derivatives. I had seen Sir Nikhil Bhaiya, I have seen a great response today in terms of the number of participants that we had in this meeting. Not only here, but in the KCS Study Cycle Facebook page. We had crossed 250 registrations just on single day.
We have to have the round of applause. Fantastic.
we had just only 550 members on our Facebook page. Today we have crossed 700. So that was only because of the eagerness and the enthusiasm that we see among the members. Particularly, it's not only when we enter the stock market, also as a taxation expert, and also in the field of audit, we need to know what the financial instrument is all about. When the derivatives contract is there, when the client has entered, how we need to disclose it in the financial instruments, in the financial audit reportings and matters, the risk has been taken, and what could be the liabilities. So that was a really intelligent approach that, sir, you have explained in terms of how to perceive it. And I'm really thankful to the members. And we have one of very active members amongst us from the Kanpur region, and most of us must be knowing her. Rutsa, she's Dipali Garg, and she is here to present a formal vote of thanks for the meeting that we had today. Dipali, you can please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Amit sir. So it's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks. I would like to first thanks to Amit ji for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much, sir. Finally, I, on behalf of KCS and my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the speaker for gracing your important work and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. But before that, first, a big and special thank you to CA Nikhil Tandonji for giving your precious time and chairing this meeting, and also for sharing your valuable view on this topic. Thanks a lot, sir. Next, I would like to thanks to CA Rudramurthy ji, our speaker, for sharing your valuable insights on the topic. And I'm sure your today's session, those practical examples, and those small stories in between the session will definitely help us. And I would like to special thanks for sharing your inspiring story at the start of the session. That was very motivational point for us. And after knowing that, it was an honor for us to listen to you. We all are inspired by your great words. And at last, I would like to thank to all the respected seniors and all the KCS members present in this meeting for being with us and this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dipali. That was really wonderful. Chairman, sir, if your permission, may I end the meeting?
Yes, sure. Please,
yes,
President, sir.
Thank you, Speaker, sir.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting. We will have you again over here.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
for everyone.
Thank you.